So, ihr Lieben, und in dem Sinne springen wir jetzt direkt rein. And I am switching to English because, as I said before, our first keynote speaker will be delivering her keynote speech in English. It's the wonderful, the one and only Jeanette Hangen. Jeanette is an expert on unmasking, self-leadership, and female empowerment. She's a mentor, she's a speaker, and she looks back on a career as an international management leader of a DAX company. Her journey will bring us very far, but it brought her already to the Sydney Opera House, to the ADAC, to Qatar Airlines, and all the way to the Lufthansa Group. She's a psychological management trainer. She's a certified stress and burnout coach. She's a holistic counselor. She's a mindfulness coach and an agile coach. Holy moly, Jeanette. This is crazy. So the list goes on, but obviously she is extremely qualified. She looks back on this really, really, really great career. She's a super pro. But you know what impresses me most about Jeanette? It's her willingness to, as one of my big role models, Brené Brown calls it, to dare greatly. In Brené Brown's words, courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. And Jeanette is one who does exactly that and who shows us how we can also find ourselves to a more courageous way. She will be sharing with us her keynote, Unmasking, why authentic leadership starts where masks are falling. Please give a warm welcome to our first keynote speaker, Jeanette Hangen. Jeanette, come join us here, please. Woohoo!
Hey!
Jeanette, it's so good to have you here.
It's
And
beautiful to be here. Yeah, thank you.
and as I just said, you're about to embark with us on a journey that I already get some goosebumps. That will be a very, very special journey. But before I leave the stage to you and basically hand over the microphone, why don't we start with one question? When I asked you to fill out your speaker profile, there was one section where I also asked you for quotes that have left an impression on you, coaches that are quotes that are dear to your heart, and also coaches, of course. And everything you named there was meaningful also to me. But there was one that stood out especially, and that is a quote by John Kabat-Zinn, and it goes like that. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. Now, Jeanette, can you share with us what this quote means to you?
Yeah, thank you, Barbara, for asking that, because it's really a quote which goes to my heart, because I've been one of those who tried to manipulate or control the waves, like for a long time. And I had to learn that, you know, we cannot change the outside, but we can change how we deal with that. And I think especially in times what we are having at the moment, this is such a great value and gives us so much more strength than dealing with things we can't change. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I think that's a brilliant start into the whole topic. So Jeanette, let us give you the whole stage so you can fill it with your important message. And let's hear you now with your keynote speech, Unmasking, why authentic leadership starts where masks are falling.
I came across a figure the other day, the latest figures by Gallup, and I was shocked. 79% of the employees do not trust their leaders. Let that sink in. it's 4 out of 5 do not trust their leaders. And, you know, knowing that trust has an enormous impact on psychological safety. And psychological safety has an enormous impact on creativity and innovation. And creativity and innovation has enormous impact on stress, burnout, and mental health. And at the end of the day, it all influences the performance of your team and the company. And you might wonder now, I believe I create a trustful environment, but statistics says no. So maybe if you're open and honest, you ask yourself, okay, then how do I create trust? And creating trust is by leading authentically. It's by being fully present with yourself and at the end, letting fall off your mask, or at least being conscious about your mask. And I come to that later and we go into that deeper. But unmasking is letting go of the should be's and the this is how it should be, letting go of that. So I invite you today. No, first I have a question for you. The last time you encountered with an employee, have you been truly present? Not in the past and not in the moment. Not in the past and not in the future, but in that moment, not in your to-do list. Have you been truly present? And while you think about that, I share a little bit what we look at. I invite you on a journey today, a journey of unmasking and truly understanding what unmasking means and what it has all to do with authentic leadership and trust and performance. And especially also looking into what are the fears behind that we do not unmask fully. And then I invite you on a journey and a process of a 3-step process to unmask yourself. So we will deep dive a little bit how that works. But first, let's start with a story. My personal one. And it's not because I'm so important, it's because I've been an expert in masking. And it shows quite clearly what happens if we lead while hiding certain parts of us and not showing our full selves and wearing masks. So I invite you to travel with me a little bit backwards in time. The year 2021, February, a grey day. I was sitting in my car in front of the fertility clinic, waiting for another result to finally find out why I haven't been fallen pregnant for over 6 years. It was an emotional roller coaster. Treatment, hope, result, disappointment. And while I was sitting in that car, my phone was ringing. One of my employees, let's call him Theo. I had a day off, but I knew he had a very important talk with HR. So what do you think I've done? Of course, I picked up the phone because this is what we do as leaders, right? And he was furious. He shouted at me. He was like, I thought I can trust you. I would have never thought you're not appreciating what I'm doing and no one sees what I'm doing. So I was quite in a shock. But of course, I tried to explain the good intention and that we just want to support. But honestly, my head was in that clinic and my heart was on a totally different journey. And I haven't been present at all. So we hung up. And I was shaking. I was like scared. I didn't do a good leader job. I wasn't capable of managing what I should. And the only thing which I could do was like sending a message to my boss saying, I cannot manage. I need support. I don't know. And he didn't understand. Of course not, because he had no idea what was going on, as no one did. Because I was performing strengths and I was professionalizing masking and was totally disconnected to myself. And that was my turning point. My point of pausing, taking off my mask and looking inside. And you might wonder why I'm sharing all of this. And that's a valid question, especially in a corporate context. But honestly, it's not about my fertility issue. We all face challenges. Might it be taking care of your parents while you're working full-time? Might it be you managing a family 24/7 while you have a full-time job? Or whatever your challenge is. What I identified, there are 3 beliefs who keep us wearing that mask. Number 1, that doesn't belong here. In my case, this is business, I need to perform, and the private stuff better stays out. Number 2, I don't want to be seen with that. So feeling fragile, feeling weak, feeling not worth. And honestly, in my case, the easiest thing a woman should do is falling pregnant, right? So I didn't want to be seen with that failure, with that weakness. And number 3, it's the fear of losing status. In my case, of losing my leadership role. What would people think when they know that I'm challenged with treatments? Would they still let me lead a team through a transformation? And now that we have seen that whether we lead authentically or not, and whether we wear a mask or not, and whether we are present or not, has an impact not only on ourselves, but also on the people around us. And at the end, on the performance as well. I would like to share with you today a common ground and get a little bit more clarity. What is meant by authentic leadership? What is meant by masking and unmasking, and then diving into the unmasking process? So let's start with the 4 pillars of authentic leadership. Pillar number 1 is self-awareness. And here I invite you, I will ask a question. You can check in with yourself if you want to. Are you truly aware of your emotions, your values, your strengths, and your blind spots? But most importantly, when you ask yourself that question, are you really open and honest with yourself while checking that? Number 2, are you truly showing up fully? Even if it's scary, even if you don't know, and even if you might think the outer world might expect something different. Pillar number 3 of authentic leadership, that's a tricky one. So, not the easy decisions you make. It's more like the decisions which are crucial. With those, are you considering the opinions of those who have an opposite opinion of yours? Are you taking them into account. And number 4, last but not least, are you leading according to your values? Not to the trends and not to what the external environment might want from you, to your values. So now we have taken a look at that. Let's look into the unmasking and masking. And for that, I brought you Carl Rogers, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century. And what's interesting, he describes the masks we wear. We normally develop them quite early, at an early age. And it's either because we want to belong, we want to be loved, or we want to feel safe. So these are the 3 reasons why we develop that mask. And what is even more important, sometimes we carry that mask for such a long time that it becomes our identity. So we think this is our true self, but we have just identified with the mask we created as an early stage. And he describes the masking as a theory of congruence. So whenever we lead according to our values, according to our emotions, our true self, we are congruent and our system feels safe and all is good. Whenever we lead not according to that, then it's an incongruence. We have a disbalance and our system feels shaky. And what is important to understand is that the cost of wearing a mask and acting incongruent is draining energy emotionally and mentally. It's creating distance and it's blocking trust because we cannot connect to ourselves, neither to others. And the paradox in that case is, remember in the beginning with the masking, we create them in order to belong, to feel loved, or to be safe. So, and now that we have seen that there might be some advantages of unmasking, you might wonder, do I always truly have to fully unmask myself? And the answer is no. It is really about the conscious awareness of your mask, creating that consciousness of when to wear a mask and when to not. And maybe certain masks are very outdated and we don't want to wear them at all. So we come to that in detail later, but it's really about that awareness and the balance. So during my own unmasking process, which was quite intense because, once I'm on a topic, I'm on a topic. And I did certifications and trainings, as you have heard. But in the beginning, only just to understand my own patterns and own drivers. And then I started to talk about it because I found it quite interesting. And recognized it's not just me. Others have that challenge as well. So I started to guide especially women through that unmasking process. And what I identified during that process is there are 3 steps of unmasking which are a healthy unmasking process. And step number 1 in that is pausing. And I know it sounds super simple, but maybe you've had that as well. Like you're functioning, you're doing, you're working, and then you go on holiday. And what happens? You get sick. According to Peter Levine, the founder of somatic experiencing and trauma healing, chronic stress, when we are in an activated state with our nervous system, doing, efforting, managing, it is a trauma. Chronic stress is a trauma. But when we have been here for quite a long time, we feel safe. So our system gets drained. Nevertheless, we feel safe. So in this pausing phase, it's about a pendulum, finding the right space where we can go from a very activated system to relaxing and slowing down and going back again and in that again. It's so important that we do that slowly, because otherwise our system will crash. So we create a lot of space in that first space. It's really about creating space, finding individually what your system needs to regulate. And it's different for everyone else. So when we do that and we pause and we pendle, that's the first stage. And as Viktor Frankl says, there is a space between stimulus and reaction. And we're trying to open that space that in the future we can consciously react and not subconsciously. So let's go to step number 2. It's a deep dive. And this is not a wellness treat and not a sprint. It's something deep. And you need a little bit of courage to go there, because we all know the iceberg module, we have all that conscious things on top, and then we dive underneath into the unconscious water, because 90% of our thoughts are unconscious. So we're looking at our drivers, our beliefs, our patterns, our shadow sides, like everything which is running our system unconsciously. And there's a lovely metaphor, and maybe you've had that as well. There is like we're carrying a black bag, and we put like all the unwanted stuff in there over our lifetime. And then it's something where you feel like after a couple of years, like when you're in the 40s, 50s, wherever, you feel like very drained. And you're like, I've slept, I've done everything, so why is it so draining here? And it's because our system needs energy to control all this subconscious stuff which we are having. But because I'm always emotionally very touched when there are courageous people who go the unmasking process, I would like to introduce a client of mine. Let's call her Rachel. Rachel was one of these very functioning, successful women, like leading a team over Europe. And from the outside, she was very successful. But she came to me and said, oh, I'm drained. I'm not having enough energy. I need to be more efficient. I need some self-optimizing tools. And I said, of course we could do that, because I've been working in sales, so I know how this works. But what if we try something different? And she was courageous enough to do that. So in the beginning, you remember phase 1, we started to just pendle with her system into relaxation, and then she went into her daily work and doing in a very activated state where she felt safe and going in there and going out. And this was a phase where we did a lot of trials to see what supports her in regulating her system. And after a couple of weeks, we recognized, wow, there's so much more space. And she learned to regulate, even if she recognized on a daily basis, oh, I feel quite activated. She learned to regulate herself. And that's where we went into step number 2, the deep dive. And I'm highlighting now one driver, which was quite dominant. And of course, there were more, but this is like a keynote and we don't have 2 more hours. So she came from a family in a country where war is on a daily basis. And her parents, they were doctors, saving lives every day. And she was the oldest of 3 siblings. So she took care of her brother and sister whenever her parents were out. And her main driver and mask she established at that time was that she is responsible for them. And even when they grew up and they moved to other countries, that stayed. So she felt, as a grown-up woman, still responsible for her brother, for her sister, for her mother, and in the job for everyone as well. Of course, this is draining. So here comes how we bring all of this to the conscious awareness. And then we went into step number 3, which is then where the fun part starts. So we create a new focus. We establish new habits. And of course, we don't start with showing fully up with the CEO, and in her case, with the same. We identified where she feels safe. And maybe one thing, because I just heard a podcast the other day, which is quite interesting. Our brain is not made to make us happy. Our brain is made to confirm what we have experienced in the past. But they're good news, because we can rewire the brain. Once we've brought it up to the conscious awareness, we can make new decisions. And what's very important here, and that's why I said don't start with the CEO, is that we slowly stretch that comfort zone, slowly. And that's why we start where we feel safe, to prove to our system, hey, nothing is going to happen even if I do something differently. So we handed over the responsibility to those where it belongs, to her sister, to her brother, later parents, and certain things to her partner. And when she recognized, oh, I'm feeling quite safe in that zone, we even did the same in the job. And the good thing here is she could really see how much more space she had for her own needs, for her own strategic thinking, for her task and herself. And she recognized that even she was there to support, she didn't have to do it for everyone. So, and when we finished the coaching, she sent a message to me. And as I'm always quite touched, I would like to read that out to you. It said, "Hey, Jeanette, I just wanted to thank you for the coaching session. Things seems clearer lately. Honestly, I've been more aligned with myself and my goals. You truly made a positive impact on my life. Just wanted to share that." And before I get too emotional here, and you would like to take something away, I just would like to give you a short summary of the 3 steps again. So step number 1 was pausing. Step number 2 was deep diving. And step number 3 was the new focus. And as it's not something we have on the bucket list normally, it's important to understand what it brings you. And this is just in a very short word, but it gives you a lot of self-empowerment. You remember we had that quote from Jon Kabat-Zinn in the beginning with the wave. And this gives you the power to have more energy, to be clearer, and at the end of the day, to also have joy. And you remember we started with that trust number, which was not really a nice one. But to create, and I hope we all want to improve that figure, to create trust, we need to be courageous in unmasking ourselves, to then authentically lead, create a trustful environment, a healthy environment, and at the end of the day, performance of your team and your company. And to sum this all up, authentic leadership is not about having it all together. Authentic leadership is about showing up fully human and leading out of connection and not control, and leading out of presence and not perfection. And if we look at this, the masking, it's not a black and white. It's not an either or. It's about creating that awareness, and Magdalena Rogel said it nicely. It's about a balance between empathy and authenticity. And this is where you can consciously then decide whether you want to wear a mask or not. And now I give you some inspiration for our ending. I invite you the next time you encounter with one of your employees or colleagues to check in with yourself, to check in whether you're fully present. You're not in the past and you're not in the future and you're not in your to-do list. And second, and I know it's a deeper one, but you have some time to think about it. What is your biggest fear of taking off your mask and showing up fully human and truly who you are?
Applause, everybody. You know, I know that everybody's clapping now on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and I have to represent everybody. Woohoo! And I'm doing this very, very, very loudly now because your keynote was so extremely good. But I really want to give my heart to you because my heart is really what you touched most, dear Jeanette. And there's also, I just want to share with you a little bit because our community is very, very active today. And there are a lot of people who are joining us on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And I just want to share a few things with you. So Peter Lottie, he sent a big, big heart via YouTube. And Sonia Keleu, she also sent a heart on YouTube. So yeah, there's lots of love that came from YouTube. Then there are people from LinkedIn who are joining us today. Mariana, she was clapping. She was saying, "Wow, this is a super good keynote." Stefan is joining us. He's saying, "Wow, 79%. That's a high number and really a big challenge to scope with." Anna is joining us today. She's commenting on the pillars that you were sharing with us. She said, "Strong pillars and definitely not cozy ones for most of us." Sarah Lisa is joining us again today. Hello, good to have you again. And she's saying, "Wow, so ein toller Titel. What a title, what a keynote title." Anna is saying, "Frankel is such a helpful role model." Sonia is saying, "Thank you for this great, great speech." Anna is saying, "Leading out of connection, not control, leading out of presence, not perfection." I love it. All in capital letters. Peter is giving claps. Stefan is saying, "Okay, interesting on performance. Never linked this with unmasking. I like it." Sandra is saying, "Wow, super." Christina. Okay, there's so much love in the audience. Thank you, everybody, this wonderful community here on LinkedIn, on YouTube, for joining us and for sharing your love with Jeanette. Now is the time to share your questions. Yeah, take advantage of having Jeanette here as an expert to sharing your questions. Of course, we'll talk about that in a second. Of course, this is not the last time you can experience her. We'll share with you all the ways how you can connect with Jeanette in a second. But let's look at some of the questions that you might have. And let's dive a little bit deeper into a few of the aspects, Jeanette, that you've been sharing with us all along. Now, this whole process that you've been describing, yeah, that sounds like you need a lot of courage to do that. And going into that deep dive and confronting our masks and asking ourselves maybe why we have them and whether we can be courageous enough to take them off, it's not a very comfortable journey. So people who are listening now, they might be wondering, when is the right time to start unmasking, or when is the right time to dive into that process and maybe to approach you to go on that journey?
Thank you for that question, Barbara. Yeah, it's a little bit, I come from a more management perspective, because honestly, in management, we make everything very transparent. You know, before we make a decision, before we make decisions and act or whatever, our biggest goal is to make it everything very clear and transparent. So that's step number one. And then we decide what to do, when to do, whether to dive deep or not. And as I said before, those masks, most of them, and I had the same, I thought I'm an authentic leader. But diving into, I knew it was just a very strong identity and a very strong mask. So the thing is, and I think especially in our world today, it's better now than tomorrow, because this is, for me, our responsibility as leaders to at least make it transparent, create conscious awareness. And then I can still decide whether I want to go deep, I want to take them off, I still want to wear them. But in business, we start with transparency. But with our own thing, we don't. So especially with, again, everything which is going out in the world and the rapid speed, the wheel is spinning. I think it's more than important to at least create transparency and awareness.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and to start now, right? I mean, it's
the world is not getting slower. You know, we
right.
thought it's only Corona, but we feel it's the world and the future leadership. And look at this figure.
Yeah.
It has been sinking dramatically. So it's really like trust is not there. And that's what we need to create and to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for giving us insight on when to start that process. Our community is very active again. I just wanted to share one thing that Mariana wrote. She said, "I love it. So well done, Jeanette. I have gone through a similar path, and I can confirm that loving your authentic self is life-changing and definitely worth it." Anna also commented, and she also has a question. Making yourself vulnerable by unmasking will also make uncomfortable reactions possible, right? What is your hack for a helpful mindset to prepare for such situations?
I think what is most importantly when we go through that process, and that's why I was really sharing several times that we have to be very conscious about the speed we are going, because it's depending on everyone else. So first of all, we check how much we want to be seen with that in the beginning. First, maybe in the beginning, and that's mostly, it's just the internal process and we're not even showing it outside because it's about creating awareness. But then when we go out and we decide to be truly or partially unmasked, it's important that we are present and kind with ourselves. And that's where we come to the thoughts, the 90% we think unconsciously, that we change them as well. Because most of the time we are the harshest on ourselves. So if we are fine with ourselves, if we are truly loving our new self, then we can be kind to others as well. But it starts always with ourselves. And that's my mindset hack, to really be gentle with yourself. Yeah, you don't need to go out like right away. It's about a gentle process and checking in the safe environment, not in the CEO, unsafety area.
And what if you're, deciding to take off a mask and to be really authentic and really sharing, something like, I've had a really shitty week. I'm going through a divorce. I have 2 small children, something like that, right? You're so really willing to take off that mask, and you're sharing this with your team. And then somebody really, it's not understanding. Somebody's telling you like, okay, I think this really, somebody says something that relates to one of those fears, like this doesn't belong here, right? And then somebody says, okay, So why are you sharing this with us now? This is a business context. What if somebody says something like that? Is there a hack where you have, or is that what you're saying? Are you saying if we're aligned with ourselves, we will be able to be kinder to somebody who expresses something like that? Is that?
Yeah, what I also experienced, I've been very strong opinion, and I thought I'm just clear and I'm authentic, but it's really about that kindness. And of course, at certain times, as I said, it's a balance. We live in a system, whether it's work, whether it's family, we cannot always truly 100% showing up fully, because it's about empathy and authenticity. Nevertheless, if I had a shitty day, I went to a talk and Nico Rose said, like, at certain times where I feel really shitty, I just don't go into the office and I share with my team. I'm here, but only for very emergency topics. So it's a little bit about self-responsibility then as well, to not throw it at the others, but ask for understanding, opening up, because people will feel when we are in a shitty state, and then they think it's their fault, and then it gets messy. But if you're open and honest and sharing also what you can give and what you might not can give today, that's, it creates connection. And and if someone says this doesn't belong here, I understand your opinion. Nevertheless, this was the least I could do for us here, because you would feel anyway.
Right. Right. All right. Oh, Jeanette, that's so good advice. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I am very, very certain that you have not just touched me and my heart, but that you've touched so many people who are with us here alive today, and so many people who will be listening to your keynote in a little bit. And they're saying, I need more Jeanette in my life. How can I get more of Jeanette in my life? And of course, as a speaker coach, my first call to action to everybody is, yes, Jeanette is available as a keynote speaker. So you can book Jeanette. Just contact her via LinkedIn, contact her via her website. Maybe, Jeanette, you can post that link here in the comments.
Yep.
And then you can bring her onto your own stage. If you have a company event, and you want to talk about authentic leadership, you want to talk about unmasking, this is something that concerns the entire company. If you have a closed circle, a specific group, like for example, a women's business network, and you think, wow, this is a topic, we want to look at it with especially the lens from a women's perspective on the whole thing. Yeah, this is also a very, very good occasion to book Jeanette and bring her into your circle and have more of Jeanette in your life. If you say, I need Jeanette exclusively, I need her just for me, I think, Jeanette, you also offer one-on-one mentoring for leaders and successful people. You work mostly with women, but I think you told me you also work with courageous men. Yeah. So if a man says, I think I'm wearing some masks, I want to explore more my authentic leadership style, you will work with him. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And then I heard something really, really exciting is coming up. Reconnect is coming up starting this fall. It's your own signature program, your group mentoring program, just for women, correct?
Yeah, that's just for women.
12 weeks. And if somebody's interested in that, how do they just contact you and you talk
they
to them?
Contact me. I started the wait list, so it opened already. So they just can contact me, and because I prefer to have a talk up front to really see whether this is the right fit.
Okay, great. And then last but not least, you also offer team development workshops. So if there are leaders here with us and you're saying, I want this for me, but I want this for my whole team because I'm convinced that we will all benefit from a more authentic leadership style, then Jeanette, you will also come in and share your knowledge there. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, Jeanette, so please share all of your contact points, your information, your website, everything in the comments so people can connect with you. And everybody out there who's been joining us for Jeanette's keynote, thank you for your love. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your willingness to dive with us and with Jeanette into authentic leadership and how unmasking helps us becoming more the person that we really are. And give a very big and warm and heartily felt applause to Jeanette. Jeanette, yay!